Sri Lanka is quickly becoming one of the world's premier destinations for ethical fashion. A voluntary Garments Without Guilt campaign is holding manufacturers to strict safety standards. Minal Fernandez has a story from Colombo.
Chandrani has worked in the garment industry for 26 years, most of them for the same employer. Starting as a helper, she now manages 300 workers.
There has been an overall improvement in standards compared to things 10 years ago.
Garment employees take home an average wage of $125 a month. Most also get benefits that include medical and transport. Sri Lanka's clothing manufacturers introduced a voluntary scheme 6 years ago, establishing minimum standards. The Garments Without Guilt campaign covers production, working conditions, child labor, forced labor and sweatshop practices. Gopal Iyer, the owner of a clothing business, says this and other certification required by clients ensure regular checks and balances.
Your machinery is kept in proper order. Your aisles are managed so that there is enough room for people in case of emergencies for people to get out. Your exits are always there. Proper markings are there.
Labor laws, building regulations and Board of Investment rules under which most garment factories are set up ensure that standards are maintained. Most of the world's top retailers and brands order at least some of their clothes from Sri Lankan factories. In 2011, the industry recorded its highest annual exports, $4 billion.
Manufacturers face constant pressure from buyers to keep prices as low as possible. They say clients who insist on ethical manufacturing must be ethical in their buying as well.
Producers point out that having reliable suppliers who comply with regulations is beneficial to buyers and worth the few extra cents it costs.
We also would like to see some kind of credence and credibility and support being given to people who are compliant and willing to really go the extra mile.
Unions admit that working conditions here are comparatively better than many countries, but say there's room for improvement.
They can increase the salaries, they can improve the conditions. That is the only solution to attract the workers.
Sri Lanka is not the cheapest place in the world to make clothes, but industry leaders say it has proved that the cost of complying with best practices is worth the investment. Minal Fernandez, Al Jazeera, Colombo.
Well, let's take this issue on. American Apparel, the company, is among a handful of global retailers that have built a successful clothing brand without resorting to cheap labor. And the company's chief executive, Dov Chani, joins us now live from New York. Mr. Chani, good to see you there. You make almost all the clothes that you sell in a factory in Los Angeles. Tell us how you make that work.
Well, we relentlessly pursue technology, innovation, creativity of all sorts in order to advance our business rather than low wages. We engineer products that can be made efficiently. We take advantage of marketing tactics, logistics tactics, etc., and we are able to pay much higher wages than our competitors, but still maintain a competitive gross margin profit level.
Right, and you would say that your competitors should embrace higher wages and they can still make their business models work, and that actually the era of cheap labor is coming to an end.
It is coming to an end over time. It's just as we had wage harmonization in the United States in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and through now, we're going to see it worldwide. As globalization takes effect, we're not going to have the same wage disparities as we had before. And slave-like wages are unacceptable. Garment companies should be paying, should begin to build businesses that kind of rely on creativity, rely on other mechanisms in order to make their businesses work. It's able to be done. We're doing it, and in some cases, manufacturing in a higher wage context can actually be less expensive on the whole.
But you wouldn't
look
say
at the reputational risk that's.
Right, I was just going to say, you wouldn't say that the garment industry should pull out of Asian factories altogether, would you? Because it does provide a livelihood for tens of thousands of people, of course, doesn't it?
No, no, of course not. I'm committed to free trade. We believe we can compete with wages all over the world in American apparel, and we would never condone restrictions to trade. That's not what I'm about. I'm a free trader. But I believe that you could build efficient business models without relentlessly and blindly pursuing slave-like wages. I think it's beneath the apparel industry. I challenge other people within my industry. For example, competitors should be paying no less than $1 an hour to make garments. If they can't pay $1 per hour, in my opinion, they shouldn't be manufacturing the garment. It's simple as that. Anything less is unacceptable, and one is just relying on, when they do engage in these kind of labor tactics, they're just engaging in some kind of it's slave-like in my opinion.
To what degree do you think? To what degree do you think the consumers themselves care about where their clothes are made, and indeed how they're made, and by whom?
I think generally they don't care that much, but when you have a tragedy like the Triangle Shirt Fire 100 years ago in the United States, where I think over 100 people died, and now you have this tragedy in Bangladesh, and this is not the first one in the last year. People are beginning to say, look, there's a limit that as to what the market should tolerate. In my opinion, wages should be at least $150 to $200 a month in terms of what garment workers should be making anywhere. And if not, it's just not right. I think there is going to be an outcry, but the real decisions that need to be made, or the people that are really going to make a difference, are the business leaders and the business designers, the men and women who are running these companies. They're the ones that have to begin to make the decision to design garments and design business strategies that don't involve exploitation of the poorest of the poor in the world. And that's what I challenge my competitors to do.
Dabchani, great to get your perspective on this. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, a French court has questioned the head of the International Monetary Fund. Christine Lagarde is being investigated.